I'm State Representative Janine Nodder, and this is Chattin' with Janine presents the New Hampshire Legislative Office Building. A while back, my friend Ellen Kolb and I went up to Concord and we filmed the historic State House and the Legislative Office Building. We interviewed a few people and had a wonderful tour by Terry Pfaff, the Chief of Operations guy, and Virginia Drew in the Visitor Center. After reviewing the footage, I thought it best to have two separate shows. And this makes it interesting because I can bring in another guest. I have asked the singing senator, Kevin Abard, to join me in the studio. So welcome, Kevin.
Welcome. Thanks
Senator.
for having me. I appreciate you having me.
And thank you for bringing your guitar.
My pleasure. It goes with me in a lot of different places. Sometimes it comes up to the Capitol with me when we sing to the kids.
Yes, and that's why I asked you to be here today, because I'm there for the fourth graders as well, and I've heard you sing to the kids and teach them a song that you wrote, the Capitol song.
Yeah, the New Hampshire Capitol song. When Kylie was in fourth, fifth grade, she says, "So what do you do up there?" Yeah, and I said, "Well, you know, we make legislation. You know, if you got an idea, you can talk to your legislator about it, and they can make a law." And so she's kind of a writer. Actually, she's minoring in journalism up in college. But when she was a little one, she helped me write the New Hampshire Capitol song.
Oh, I didn't know that she did.
So when we play, I give a little sheet out with the song, and written by Senator Kevin Abard and Kylie O'Brien. Yeah. So it's a neat little treasure that we hand to the kids. You know, it makes it fun for them when they come up to the Capitol.
Well, some of the people watching the show may have been kids who were there and sang this with you.
Yeah, well, we've since 2010 we've sung to thousands over the years. You know, and it really is. It's fun. It's you know, you can see sometimes some of the kids are interested. Some of the kids, you know, okay, what's next? That type of thing. And then I come out with the guitar, and it's like, ooh, what are we gonna do?
Well, one time I was in the Senate gallery and I saw you there talking to the kids, and you asked them, "What do you say when you want to get somebody's attention?" And from the gallery I shouted down, "Hey!"
That's right. Hey means I want your attention, and that's part of the lyrics to the song. And so it's that three-letter word. And we let them know that they're the boss. It's not you or I. We're the servants. And the boss says to the servants, "I want something done." And we're there to listen. And so we kind of go through that dialogue with the kids, you know, and hey means I want your attention, and you're worthy of it. I make sure that every one of the kids in that room know that they're important. We're not anybody super special. It's them that are special. It's those kids that are special. It's the public that's special. They have the voice. We listen, and we are their servants. And we don't lose track of that. We know that for a fact. And but I think some people are kind of like starstruck, and you know, you don't have to be. You're the boss. And that's one of the questions I ask them. Who's the boss, me or you? You are, no. You're the boss.
So can you play the song?
Sure. Yeah, this is called the New Hampshire Capitol song. Looking around my hometown on my way to school, I got an idea, it's a good one too. I think it should be the rule. I wanna go to the Capitol, we need to make a law. I wanna speak to my representative and tell him what I saw. And I said, hey, hey, hey. Our republic, we can make a stand in a democratic way. With our Constitution as our law, we got the right to sing. We got the right to sing now. Hey, 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 hey. people vote. The governor signed into law. All because on the way to school, I told them what I saw. Now it's a law, I feel much better because I did my part. I love my town, I love my state, with all of my heart. Cause I said, hey, 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 hey. This is very important. In our republic we can make a stand in a democratic way. Our Constitution, that's our law. We got the right to say. We got the right to say now. Hey, hey, hey. Yeah.
Yay!
Hey.
Hey!
Yeah, so hey means I got your attention, and the kids are obviously singing along with us, and we let them know that every one of them is important, and their voices are important. And I think some kids struggle with that. And we bring up the idea of a puzzle. How many of you have ever seen a puzzle? And they all raise their hand. And a puzzle has a picture, doesn't it? And if there's one little piece in that puzzle that is missing, is the puzzle complete? No, it's not. That means the conversation is not over then, right? Well, now they all got to stick out your hand like this.
Oh, yeah, I've seen you do that
And I
with them.
tell them to stick out the hand, and then I tell them, look at your little thumb. Ladies and gentlemen, that's your thumb. There's nobody in the world that has a thumb like you. And like a piece of a puzzle, you're just as important and part of that conversation. And if you don't speak up, will you ever be heard? And the answer is, of course, no. So speak up so you can be heard, because you're part of the conversation. And that's kind of the lesson of them when they come up to the Capitol. And we just want them all engaged and let them know that each individual is very important.
You can write a book about that. And I wanted to tell you in part one of this special, the Historic State House, where there's scenes from the visitor center, and we go zoom in on your book about the parrot bill. That was my bill, but you were a co-sponsor, and there I flipped through it so you could see Cartoon Janine and Cartoon Kevin.
Yeah, and Cartoon Oscar.
Yes, Cartoon Oscar.
Right.
Oh, in bird heaven now, my bird.
Yeah.
And I wanted to give a shout out to Senators Keith Murphy and Regina Birdsell, because they were freshmen representatives with us back in 2010, along with Deputy Speaker Steve Smith and then a few others, and some are still around. Most from our freshman class are not there, and you went on to the House of Lords. I'm still in the House of Commons.
Oh, no. We're equals.
Yes. Let's have a look at the video.
Good, yeah.
So I'm across the street from the LOB. This is the old post office. LOB stands for Legislative Office Building. Now, looking at it, you would think it was 3 stories, but it's actually 4. So we have the first floor, and it's a long stairway up to the second floor. And then at the top, that's the 4th floor. The 3rd floor is in the back. There's a newer part to accommodate all the committee rooms. All right, we're going to check in on Representative Maureen Mooney. Is she in? Ah, she's home.
Hi, Janine.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Merrimack. Good, thank you. How about yourself?
Well, hold on, I'll get you the mic.
Oh, great.
So now you can say hello.
Hi, Janine. How are you?
Oh, I'm great.
And hello, Merrimack. Welcome to Concord, the LOB, Legislative Office Building, right behind the State House. Great to have you here.
So we have 400 representatives, but there are very few that have an office. Maureen is one who does have an office. So how did you get this?
Well, an office comes with seniority, and this is my 5th term, so my 10th year in the New Hampshire House. And also, I'm the vice chair of a division within the House Finance Committee, so there's lots of work to be done here.
How many committees have you been on, and which one was your favorite, and why?
Wow, that's a tough question. Over my terms, I've served on the Judiciary Committee, the Rules Committee, the Election Law Committee, and House Finance. But I've also been appointed to various commissions, committees, special study committees. For example, I co-chair right now the Speaker's Advisory Group and also a member of the Speaker's Working Group. So those are also additional committees and duties to my committee work. But I have to say, House Finance is a real different perspective because I get to see all of the committee bills that come to House Finance and need money to make them work. So I really get a great overview of all sorts of bills that come to House Finance and what kind of money they need to make the policy work.
Thank you. So finance is your favorite? I know I've heard you give talks on the budget, and you made it sound interesting.
It really is. It's a very interesting process, and it starts every 2 years. For example, it's an even-numbered year right now, so the budget process for the next 2 years, believe it or not, is starting already. This summer, the various departments in our government take the time to draft a budget for the governor to consider this fall to propose to those who are elected next spring. So it's always in motion and it's always interesting. I'm glad you like my presentation. Thank you for the feedback.
So earlier today, I showed Ellen Kolb, our camera woman, a picture of Donna Sitek, who was the first female Speaker of the House. And I told Ellen how she was one of the people that trained me in New Hampshire politics. So that was 2008. And I remember that you were a state representative at the time. And you came and talked to us. And I forgot where I was going with this, but I'll remember in a moment.
Yeah, in fact, you know what's interesting is I've served under various speakers. I never served under Donna Sitek as a speaker. I think I just missed her speakership. But I have served under Gene Chandler, Doug Scammon, Terry Norelli, and now Speaker Packard for 2 terms. So quite a variety there.
Well, of course, we did have the late Dick Hinch as well, who's also from our town. But were you in the year that...
Oh, yes. Yes, he served for 8 days. In fact, I nominated Dick Hinch. I gave his nomination speech on the field of UNH for him to become Speaker. And that was one of the last times I saw him. And, of course, I served as his fiscal agent for all of his races for years.
Oh, that's right. Your name was on his signs. So now I remember. So when Dick Hinch was elected Speaker, his plan was for me to be the whip, and Maureen was going to be the deputy whip, and we were going to share the office that's upstairs right above us. So then we different, he passed away, and we got different roles.
He is definitely missed, and his presence is thought of all the time here.
Maureen and I are in the committee room for the Committee of Fish and Game, and also shares it with the Committee of Labor. Now, see how small, it's pretty small, and this is how it used to be. All of the committee rooms were this small. The people that sit here, we call them the people that watch us, and the representatives sit in this U. So Maureen, you can take that.
Okay, yes, as Representative Nodder said, this is your typical committee room. There are approximately 20 members of a House committee, typically. That varies from time to time. So you'll notice there are about 20 seats around the table. The chairman sits at the seat that's the tallest, naturally right in the middle, and that way the chairman can officiate the business of the committee, whether it's a hearing, a public hearing where a person would testify and sit right here at this chair and this table, or an exec session where there's no public input and that's only for the representatives to discuss bills and make recommendations for the full New Hampshire House. Now, committee assignments are done typically because of the request of the member. So when you're elected, you get to put down your choice of a committee assignment. But ultimately, it's for the Speaker to decide where a member will be appointed to sit on a policy committee. Now, the ratio of Democrats to Republican is determined by the amount of both parties in the House. So you have a certain number of Democrats and a certain number of Republicans. That will determine how many from each party get appointed to each committee. Right now in the New Hampshire House, we're almost at a virtual tie in terms of membership. So these committees are pretty much an even split. Maybe a one-person difference in certain committees. So a lot of the times when a committee makes a recommendation this term, it'll come out 10 to 10 because of a party line. But for the most part, committees work very well together, and they do decide and unanimously come out with recommendations on bills for the full New Hampshire House to consider. One last thing. The public is always welcome to come in and hear what's going on when a House committee is doing its business. Representative Notter right now is in the public section, but there are chairs here. You can watch live or you can watch on YouTube. All of these committee hearings and exec sessions are now broadcast on YouTube. Remember, the public input is always welcome, and the public is always invited to see what's going on in government.
We showed you what the committee rooms used to look like, but during COVID, things changed. We were having hearings on Zoom. It didn't work out too well. So then we had a hybrid. We had some members at home on Zoom and other members were here in the double room. And then we just kept most of the committee rooms as a double room. So they're open. There's the addition of cameras. This is my committee, Science, Technology, and Energy. I sit 2 seats away from the chairman, right over there. And these desks in the center are here because we don't have anywhere else to put them, actually. These were the desks that would have been in 2 committee rooms. This is 2 committee room tables all in 1 room. We have a much bigger section for the people that watch us, and watch us they do. Welcome to the office.
Yes, this is great. Everybody comes in and feels free to come in, discuss legislation, help themselves to a snack or a coffee. We often have lunch in here. You and I and Representative Bob Healy and often Representative Bill Boyd and Representative Tim Magoo. So it's always been great to be here and catch up on things during a busy legislative day and season.
This is my office, and this is where Maureen and Bob Healy and I have lunch on session days. Sometimes Jordan joins us. So, Jordan, I sat next to you for 2 terms in a row, and now you sit like 2 rows behind me.
Yes, that's true. We sit over in Section 1. When we sit beside each other, we were over in Section 4 when we were in the minority. It's a pleasure working with you. We spent a lot of time, Dan Itza, you and I, and James Spillane, would kibitz about what was going on. I'm now sitting on Ways and Means. I'm from the town of Hudson, just over the river, almost directly over the river from where you live. And we work together, even though Merrimack and Hudson often compete with each other. Now, if we can build that bridge through Litchfield, we'll get less traffic in both towns.
Yes.
Thank you.
How long have you been in office, and what committees have you served on?
I first went into the State House in 2002. So this is my 10th year, or 10th term. If I get reelected, that'll be my 11th, so that'll be 20 years plus whatever the electors want me to serve in the future. I've served on criminal justice and most long time on Ways and Means, although I have filled roles in judiciary and transportation for a little bit, filling in for different sections in there when specific pieces of legislation came up. In Ways and Means, we sit down and we figure out how to make the state work for the benefit of the people without overtaxing them. It's a big deal. Taxes are, and we try and keep the fees down so that the fees only fund the program and they don't add to the general fund. That prevents them from becoming a tax by any other name is spelled FEE is the quip that goes around. But and we did learn one important thing in the last 4 years. When we reduced business taxes, we increased revenue. This goes back to Arthur Laffer and his economic theory out of the University of Michigan, and that when there's a sweet spot for taxes around 22 to 28% of the maximum. Any more than that, and the revenues start to decline. When you have zero taxes, you have zero revenue. When you have 100% taxation, you have zero revenue. And the more you increase taxes, the less revenue that is generated. Unfortunately, of the two major competing theories of government economic theory, the Keynesian or the Austrian school. The Keynesian school says tax and spend, and it stimulates the economy. Well, the only place the government gets money is either by making it up, fiat currency, the printed dollar, the Federal Reserve note, as are examples, or taking it out of your pocket. That's the only place the government can get the money. The Keynesian school's taking money out of your pocket. The Austrian school says, let you spend the money where you want to spend the money. We have these certain minimum obligations that we need to do. Defense, infrastructure, interstate highway systems, and such like that. The rest of it, leave it as local as possible. I hate to say this because he was a Democrat, but Tip O'Neill was absolutely correct. All politics is local. The closer you keep government to the people, the better off we are. And that's what Janine keeps doing. And that's what you keep doing over in finance, trying to balance the two things together. I'm sorry, Lisa.
I'm in agriculture,
let me have
environment
it.
and agriculture.
All right, so thank you, Jordan. Lisa Smart. I called her Lisa Post because we do have a representative, Lisa Post, but this is Lisa Smart, and you're a freshman. This is your first term.
This is my first term. I'm in. Oh, hold it closer. Can you hear me now? I represent Belknap County, Meredith, District 2, and I am on the Environment and Agriculture Committee. That was my Madam Chair that stopped at the door before because we're here to, we have a couple of bills that are going to interim study, and so she wanted to discuss them as a group before they went. So
Excellent, yeah.
it should be interesting. But
So, tell us about your first term. Was it what you expected?
no, I learned a tremendous amount. It's really been fascinating what you learn, what you're told in the newspaper, and what you actually see happening are two very different things. And a lot of times I'll come out of session and look at the newspaper and go, what? That's not what happened. So I find that a lot. A lot of fascinating people. There's a lot of knowledge to be gained, and everybody's willing to share it, which is really nice for those of us who know nothing. And that was my experience. I really liked it so far. It's been great.
Are you running again?
I don't believe I am. They have, there is a new gentleman. It would be a primary if I did, and I don't really know that that's in the best interest of everybody involved. So I think I will sit aside this time. And I have family obligations I need to be taken care of right now. So that is a major role.
Well, we'll miss you, but we thank you for the service that you gave the state.
Oh, thank you. I'm hoping to be able to return.
It's been great having you, Representative Smart.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service and being a member of the caucus. What advice would you give to a new person who's thinking about running for state rep and maybe is on the fence and doesn't quite know if they should take the plunge and file or not? What advice would you give them?
If I can do it, anybody can do it. And accept knowledge from everybody has something to give, whether they see the same views you have, or if they have other views. I think we all want the same thing. We just have different approaches. And the more information you can gather and pick what's right for you, works out good. I think everybody should be involved. This is so important, especially now, to guide our state so that we can help our country. be the best it can be, and that's why I did it, and I think it's a very important thing to do. So, and I really, you guys that have been here for generations, it's been wonderful meeting you and gleaning knowledge from you, because it really has been helpful. Thank you.
So I've been here 14 years, and my first 2 terms were on state and federal relations and veterans affairs, and the last 10 years I've been on science, technology, and energy. I was hoping that my chairman could join us today so I could ask him questions about what it's like to be a chair. I know you're a vice chair, but so maybe Maureen, you can fill in and tell us what your duties are?
Well, being a chairman or a vice chairman of a House committee is a tremendous commitment. You are in charge of overseeing an entire committee and the bills that are assigned to you, making sure that procedurally everything is done correctly and that deadlines are met. Also, as a chairman, you have an obligation to be sure every member of your committee is heard. They were all elected and have an equal voice on the committee, and you have to respect that and make sure everyone is duly heard and feel as though that they are part of the committee and fairly treated. It's a commitment depending on how many bills your committee receives. Some committees don't receive a lot of bills. We have about 800 bills or so that are filed a year. That's been this year. And some committees, if you have a committee where only 30 bills come your way, you can pretty much get those done very quickly. But if you're a committee like House Education, like Finance, you could have up to 100 bills. And that becomes a scheduling issue. So you now, as a chairman, as a vice chairman, have an obligation to schedule these hearings, make sure the public is duly heard on all of these bills, and then schedule the exec sessions to be sure all the members of the committee are duly heard. It's so important that the public has input. And in New Hampshire, we have multiple opportunities for that to happen. On the committee level, if it passes through the House, on the Senate level, to your own representatives voicing your thoughts on the bills that way, and the chairman really oversees all of that. So it's a huge job. It comes through the appointment of the Speaker, so it's not an elected position, it's an appointment. And it's certainly service to the next level in the House because you're doing so much. Then when you get to the floor, the committee chairman or the vice chairman have to defend these bills a lot of the time. So you have to quickly remember what each of these bills does in order to defend them, sometimes very quickly, without much notice, and very quickly on the House floor. So huge commitment, but we can be very proud of our chairs. This year they worked very hard.
Here's an open question for any one of you. Can you tell me about an interesting piece of legislation? It can either be something that was fun, it was contentious, or just outright silly.
Silly. I understand people appreciate the motto of New Hampshire, live free or die. But the purpose of a flag of a state is to represent the state, not to represent political points of view, such as live free or die. So when you put in legislation to change the flag, it needs to be for a good reason. This happened, about 6 years ago? There was a bill to be put in, and if you noticed recently, several states have recently changed their flags. Montana changed theirs. Was it Mississippi? Yes, Mississippi changed their flag. Some of the designs are pretty neat and follow philography closely. Some of the other ones don't. But let's, there's better uses of time than that. Successful bills, arguing Article 5.
Representative Rillery, did you know I was walking in the door just now?
Yes.
Talking about my flag bill.
Yeah.
So as you were talking about the flag bill, Representative Tim McHugh walked in. He's also of Merrimack. Maureen and I and Tim and I are all from Merrimack. He put in a bill this year to change the flag. So it's just, I don't even know if you saw him, but welcomed him.
I had no idea who was behind me. But the neat thing is, Tim, seriously.
Oh, here you go, and then hand it to him.
Tim, seriously. We have many more important things to deal with than a put any adjective you want there. Flag.
Yeah, Representative Ulrich, you are absolutely correct. We have so many more serious things to deal with, and I'll tell you why we put in the flag bill. And I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. In 1999, I'm the guy that put "Live Free or Die" on the quarter. And I did it for a reason, because it was so important to memorialize that statement. It's the motto, right? And one of our governors, our newly elected governor, before she even took office, decided that she wanted to take "Live Free or Die" off the state quarter design. It was put on the quarter design at the will of the people. And before she even took office, after she got elected, she unilaterally decided that it would become the granite state on that quarter design. And the bipartisan majority of the legislature, House and Senate, decided we would put it back on there and make it "Live Free or Die."
That's an appropriate argument. If we're going to redesign the New Hampshire flag, let's put some mountains on there and some pine trees.
It's a great discussion, and I'll tell you how it evolved to the flag. Our own House clerk, so it had been tried numerous times before. Our own House clerk, House Bill 123, in I think about 2010, then Representative Paul Smith was the last person to try essentially the same thing with one of my co-sponsors, then Senator Bob Letourneau, and he was Representative Letourneau and co-sponsored the quarter bill with me. So Senator Letourneau and Representative Smith wanted to put "Live Free or Die" in a fancy Old English script on the flag for some of the same reasons that I wanted to do it. And so I thought, here I am, I was young and stupid, now I'm old and stupid, I'll bring it back, and this time I'll try to put it on the flag. So we thought it was a good idea, and you're right, there were a lot of priorities, and the committee agreed with you. And Chairman Carol McGuire immediately dispatched this bill in 30 seconds flat. But
it took that long?
No, not quite. But we learned a lot. We learned a ton at the time, and some young folks got involved, and old folks got involved, and a young gentleman from Derry came with his own design. That then, when he became governor for the day, actually got our own governor to speak very positively and basically essentially endorse his design with mountains in different colors. And who knows? I bet it'll come back. Maybe not be from me, but I bet a flag commission. I don't really love more committees and commissions in bigger government, but there was another representative, Tom, his last name escapes me, who wanted to sponsor another bill for a complete redesign that created a commission and a committee not unlike Maine. And Maine is about to vote statewide on a new flag design with how topical that pine tree flag that's been a bit in the news recently.
Thank you for stopping in.
Yeah, I just wanted to say hi.
And what committee do you chair?
I chair House Environment and Agriculture.
You get all the dog bills?
Yes. It's animal welfare bills, solid waste management bills, and agricultural policy bills.
Riveting.
Yes. Actually, it's very interesting. There are a lot of very interesting things like, where to site landfills, and we talk trash all the time.
We were in my office having a little round table, and Representative Judy Aaron, who's the chair of Environment and Agriculture, popped in, so we said hello to her. And then I have some interviews with the speakers, and Speaker Packard was actually part of the Historic State House special, but I cut it in half.
Okay.
So I can have him on this show too, so I can have both speakers. I have Speaker Sherm Packard, and then also Steve Shurtleff, who was the Speaker of the House.
Yeah, I think he's retiring this year. This is his last year, I think.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I did run into him in the tunnel and in the cafeteria, so I chatted with him. And let's hear what the speakers had to say. Hello, Mr. Speaker.
Good morning, afternoon.
Yes, it is afternoon.
It's afternoon.
So, Mr. Speaker, you have been the Speaker of the House for 2 terms now?
It's my second term, yes.
Has it been rewarding? Has it been frustrating?
It's It's been both. It's been both rewarding and frustrating. And I mean, the first term we had to deal with COVID going off site. This term here, we had to deal with the closest majority, the smallest majority we've had in 150 years.
How long have you been in the House? What area do you represent? And how many committees have you been on?
Well, I've been in the House for 34 years. I represent Londonderry the whole time. Committees, I was chairman of transportation for 12 years. That's the main committee I've always been on. I have served on legislative administration. I filled in on numerous different committees through the years, but my main committee's always been transportation. I've sat on Rules Committee, which I chair now. I do sit on Legislative Facilities Committee. I think that's about it. I actually sat on Commerce for a little bit, fill in. But so I've been on in numerous things, but it's mainly been transportation through the years. But I actually haven't served on a regular sitting committee now for 4 or 5 years.
Can you think of any piece of legislation that has really been endearing to you, or maybe one that was ridiculous or very contentious?
There's too many to go into. Okay. Yeah, in all my years here, I mean, there's been a tremendous amount of bills that I've been associated with, and I just right off the top of my head, I can't think of one that sticks out more than any other one. You know what I mean? I've been involved in so many through the years.
My first bill was to name a bridge in Merrimack after Corporal Timothy Gibson, who was killed in Iraq in 2005. And my most memorable, you might remember my most memorable bill, besides that one, is the parrot bill. Quaker parrots were illegal in New Hampshire, and I was a freshman and had to go to the Rules Committee to get permission to put in a late bill to legalize Quaker parrots. And we learned so much about those birds. It was like an ongoing joke for the rest of the term, with all the Quaker pot pie and jokes like that. Do you recall that?
I vaguely recall the parrot bill. I didn't remember you were the prime sponsor of it, but I do remember a bill about parrots.
Yes.
That's the only thing I remember. I didn't remember any of the details, but okay, now I know who the prime sponsor was.
Yes. So a former colleague of yours, who from Merrimack, Bob LaRue, he helped me with that bill, and also the former Speaker of the House, Donna Sitek, the first female speaker. I spent a long time poring over old legislation, trying to find when these birds were banned in New Hampshire. To find out they were never banned by the state legislature. It was a rule put in place by the Department of Fish and Game. So that was another thing that I learned as a freshman, is that sometimes departments can make rules that have the effect of law. They bypass the legislature. So I had to go against them, too. But it was successful. And, of course, the late Representative Gary Hopper, he was talking on the House floor against the bill because he just wanted to grandfather the birds and not have them become legal. And he said, so how are you going to enforce this? With parrot troopers? And then he received an award from another former speaker, Bill O'Brien. He got the Parrot Award, Parrot Trooper Award. So a lot of good memories. So, changing course. As Speaker of the House, of course, you oversee the whole House, Democrats, Republicans. And can you tell us what a typical day is like?
There's no such thing as a typical day here. Many times, we'll have 1 or 2 meetings set up, and then before the day's open, we've had 4 or 5. People are constantly. I've had probably the most open door policy of any speaker in recent history, if we're not in the middle of something and somebody wants to come in and talk, we bring them in. And I've also spent more time here than any speaker in history, because I'm usually here 5 days a week. And surprisingly enough, usually every single day is taken up with different problems and different things. And we got so much going on with the parking garage and the building that, the LOB, which we're going to have to completely change the heating and the HVAC system in there because it's about 50 years old and failing. It just failed last week, from my understanding. So, and there's a lot of other projects, this building's an old building. When you got an old building like this, there's a lot of maintenance. So there's constantly stuff going on here.
We have a lot of dignitaries that come to the State House. People from all over the world come here, and they pop in to see you. And that's been one of the highlights of being in leadership, was that I get to meet all these dignitaries from foreign countries.
Yeah, we've been really fortunate. I don't know past speakers how many dignitaries were in the office, but I think that what we've tried to do is through the years, when you get a senior dignitary from a different country, it's to the benefit of the House members, allowing them to take 15, 20 minutes or a half hour and speak and talk about our connections with that particular country, future connections and future business with them, and just a little bit about the country itself. And I think it's very beneficial to the members to have that information and have the ability to meet these people and find out in some cases how similar they are, or what their differences are. But we've been fortunate to have quite a few come through.
This is an underground tunnel that links the LOB to the State House. So we use this tunnel in the winter to stay out of the cold. But during the summer, we usually just walk on the street. It's a lot faster. I'm really happy I ran into you, Speaker Emeritus Steve Shurtleff.
Well, I'm glad I ran into you, too. This is nice to do.
So you were the Speaker of the House, I think it was my 5th term.
Okay, yeah, 2018 to 2020.
I'll take your word for it.
Okay.
I know we both share a love of history,
We do.
especially the Civil War.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I take it you're a Yankee.
Yeah. My great-grandfather fought with the 3rd Vermont before moving down to New Hampshire, so exactly, I'm a Yankee.
My father's family was on the other side,
From what state?
Kansas and Missouri. So they went through the getting moved and with all the
Kansas and all that, yeah. And Missouri was split, between pro and Union and anti, pro Confederacy.
But they were not slave owners.
No, most of those who fought in the Civil War from the South weren't slave owners.
And that's
It was
important
a
to
states'
know.
issue for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we don't agree politically on a lot of things, but we're still managed to be good friends.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just talking to some House colleagues at another meeting, and we broke up, and one of them said about, there's so much dissension in the House. And I said, well, it gives me hope to realize that the vast majority of our bills still are passed on the consent calendar, coming out of a committee with a unanimous or maybe just 1 or 2 voting against it. But a lot of our legislation we do agree on. But on the floor, the thing is, we can disagree without being disagreeable, and we have some on both sides of the aisle. There are a small minority of the Democrats and a small minority of the Republicans that they seem to enjoy the dissension that they can cause between the two parties. But the vast majority, their heart's in the right place.
What was your favorite part about being Speaker?
Besides the extra money?
Oh yes, the $25 extra.
It was a 25% pay raise, so that really was nice. No, I working with both sides. Dick Hench was the Republican leader then, and Speaker Packard, now our Speaker, was the deputy. And I always considered them friends, especially Sherm. And I had Democrats come to me. A good friend of ours, Al Baldessaro, was out sick for 6 weeks, serious health problems. And when he came back, that first day back in the House, I came down from the podium and came over and gave him a hug. And from the podium, I said, it's so good to have our good friend Al Baldessaro back in the House, and welcome home. And I had several Democrats say to me, what are you being nice to the Republicans for? And I said, well, you don't understand. I'm not the Democratic Speaker of the House. I'm the Speaker of the House who happens to be a Democrat. So you try to play it down the middle, but it was enjoyable, and it was nice working with both sides.
Did you like smacking down that gavel?
Sometimes I did. Sometimes people would say things that I thought were really beyond the pale, and on both sides of the aisle. And I normally don't get mad, and I'm pretty easygoing. But sometimes, like I said, Democrats and Republicans just say something inappropriate, and you bang it. Not here. I don't want that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or if they're doing something that doesn't align with the proper procedure.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, some things are minor, but there are times as a speaker I'd have to. I set up a committee that I'm so glad that Speaker Packard has continued. It's an advisory committee of then it was 8 people, I think 6 now, 3 Democrats and 3 Republicans. So when there's an infraction of our rules, it would go to this committee and they'd make a recommendation to me what they thought the penalty should be, and most often it'd be a letter of caution. But just to take it away from even the appearance that it was being partisan, the Democratic Speaker was purposely punishing a Republican. I wanted this independent group to make their recommendation, and like I said, I'm so glad Speaker Packard has continued it. But having to write letter of cautions on people who, some very good friends for infractions, things they did that were really not walking in front of the speaker's podium or reading a newspaper or making a phone call from the House. No, but doing something really, beyond the pale.
So the camera's always on, the mic is always on, and you have to behave yourself no matter where you're at. Well, thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're standing in the lobby of the Legislative Office Building. Before I was a representative, I would watch the news, to look for people I know, because it's a small state and we pretty much all know each other. We don't, we will. This is where they stand when they had press conferences. So we have the step and repeat behind me, and with me is still Representative Tim McHugh and Representative Jordan Ullery. And Jordan's going to tell us a little bit more about this building.
Thank you. This used to be the U.S. Post Office for Concord and the Central Post Office for New Hampshire way back when. It's built of granite, and the nice thing about it, the thing that comes back that's very important is when I first started up here, this was the only building that had air conditioning. So a lot of work took place over here because, as you know, the other side only recently, within the last 5 years, got any form of central air conditioning for the building. They had room air conditioners, but we sweat buckets in the Reps Hall and in the Senate, which may have been a good thing because less bills got passed that would damage people, but that's another story. Redoing this building's been done twice. It was redone, converted from the post office into the legislative office building. There was a fire, then it was redone, and then it was redone again to the state that you see it now, which gives us space to hold public meetings so that people can come and attend. Here is important because here's where people get to advertise and say their position on this topic or that topic. People sound up behind them, whether you may be engaged in running for office or a national office. National candidates come up and stand here often to say, I've announced for or I support this. Public advocacy of a wide range of topics takes place here. Tim, you've been involved in some of those, haven't you?
A few, but there's so many important things. We come right through these front doors here, and there's a couple little hidden secrets here. If you can pan over here, I think this is probably every legislator's first stop in the morning. Do you see this little thing in the corner over here? This is maybe some legislators' favorite spot. Can you zoom in on this over here? Does everybody know how this works? This is the mileage kiosk.
Oh, yes,
right?
we need our mileage.
$100 a year, but thankfully we do get to use the mileage kiosk and enter our numbers, and that's probably a wrong number.
You're giving somebody mileage who's not here today.
Incorrect code. But anyways, that's how we get paid for mileage to and from our districts to get up here, a little inside baseball. This is how we figure out where we're going during the course of the day. The calendar shows us the list. Anybody in the public can walk in and find out what's happening every day. Of course, you can see that online too, and get to your committee room, come and testify, sign in on a bill, all throughout the building. So those are some of the most important pieces that general public needs to know when they come visit.
Yeah, so we sign in once a week, and our assistants log that in for us.
Oh, so the Senate doesn't use the kiosk?
No,
Just
not
the
at all.
House members?
Yeah.
Where do you have your press conferences?
At the LOB, same place.
Oh,
Yeah,
all
right
right. I
across.
wondered about that.
Yeah.
I guess I should watch more of them. I was going to do a segment on security at the State House,
Yep.
but then I decided against it for security reasons.
But they are beefing it up.
Yes,
They-
but I do have a cameo of one of the security officers.
Yep. Yeah.
Behind me is one of our security officers and a representative walking by him. Bob is also our chauffeur when we go on field trips. So he's taken us to the top of Mount Washington and down to ISO New England. Let's see, Seabrook Nuclear Power Plant. And we're very grateful to Bob for his service as well. Beyond Bob is a parking garage for the senior members. We can't all park there. There's a parking garage on Storrs Street that's falling apart. It doesn't look safe, and they're building a new one. So next year, everyone will have good parking.
You mentioned security here. You noticed there was no metal detectors or gates getting into this building. Janine and I and many other state legislators have visited other state capitals, and they have security of that type. In New Hampshire, we trust the people, but at the same time, these guys have got cameras to see what's going on. I think you're going to be discussing some of the security issues later, but the nice thing about New Hampshire is the people can come in and meet their representatives and voice their concerns to the representatives. On session day or important bill hearing days, people line up outside, inside, and are expressing their point of view. That's unique to New Hampshire. It's one of the things that makes the state great. Thank you, Janine.
You're welcome. And the LOB is located directly behind the State House. So if you don't know where the LOB is, just punch in State House, New Hampshire State House, and go to the back. It used to be a post office, and it still says post office out there. So sometimes people actually walk in expecting to find a post office. We're going to get one last interview in today, and it's with the Chairman of Judiciary, Representative Bob Lynn.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. You are a former Supreme Court Justice. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I was, all right, thanks. I was on the Supreme Court for almost 9 years, and I was the Chief Justice for about 18 months or so, the last 18 months. It was a great job. It was very, very interesting. And I left because I turned 70, and you have to retire at 70. That's the only reason I left.
We had a bill to change that to 75. Do you recall if that passed?
Yes, it's a constitutional amendment, and it will be on the ballot in November. It'll be a ballot question this November.
Well, I voted to support it. Now, this morning, Ellen and I were chatting with the clerk of the House, Paul Smith, and we talked about the anniversary, 200-year anniversary of the State House, and we had Old Home Day. And we didn't talk about all the festivities that went on that week, but one that I recall was where the Supreme Court met in Reps Hall and with the black robes, and it was like really incredible to see, to walk in and sit in Reps Hall, and there you were presiding. And then I kept running into you. Like everywhere I went, I kept running into you. And then you ran for state rep, and here you are, you're a chairman. What is it like to be the chairman?
Well, I'm chair of the Judiciary Committee, as you mentioned, and I think we really have a really good committee. Everyone gets along well. We don't always agree. We have, we've had a lot of bills that have come out without recommendation. But there also are a lot of things that we do agree on, and we've had, a number of bills where we've had either unanimous or a very strong recommendation. And even on the ones where we disagree, I think, our debates have been respectful. There's been no sort of yelling and screaming or, bad feelings. So I'm really, very, very happy to be chair of Judiciary. I feel very good about it.
We spoke with the vice chair earlier today, too, Representative Maureen Mooney. From Finance.
Sure.
And we talked about how 400 representatives, there's not that many offices, so only the senior members or the ones in leadership have one. So this is one of the offices.
Right, and I share, this office it's labeled outside the door as Judiciary, but I really share this office with Children and Family Law. Typically during the year, the Judiciary Committee held its hearings and meetings on Wednesday, and sometimes on Thursday when we didn't have session. And Children and Family generally held their meetings on Tuesday. So we were able to we both used the same hearing rooms.
So earlier in the day, also, I showed what the committee rooms used to look like. We went to Fish and Game, and that shares with Labor, and it's a pretty small room, and that's how every room used to be that way. And we had committee hearings on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And this place was always a hustle, bustle, full of activity. It was also kind of fun, because there was a lot of people, a lot of energy. After COVID, we have the double rooms, and we have meetings 5 days a week. Not as many people, so I have an office on the third floor, and when I hear a human go by, I get excited, like, oh, company. It's like...
I was, I came after COVID, so my experience here as a legislator is all post-COVID. I'm in my second term now, but I do remember from when I was, on the court coming over to testify on budgets or other things, and I do remember the single rooms. And you're right, it was much more activity during the middle of the week then. That's for sure.
What's the best part about being a chairman?
I guess really working with the committee, trying to sort of, getting everybody on board, for when we're going to have meetings or what the schedule is, we're going to take things up. Because I try to do that in a collaborative way, make sure that I can, everybody, or at least most everybody is on board with it. And so I guess interacting with people, I think I like the best.
What's the most controversial bill that you've had to deal with?
Oh, well, we've had a lot. I mean, we get all the abortion related bills. So we had a lot of those, both, the first part and the first of the 2 years, and then second also. We had some controversial right to know law bills. We had the Death with Dignity Act. That was a controversial issue. What else? Those are probably the most controversial ones that we had. But and those all went to the floor. Most of them without recommendation. So.
Can you explain the current abortion law? There's a lot of misconceptions about it.
Sure. So our current abortion law is that abortions are permitted for any reason or no reason. I mean, a person who wants to have an abortion doesn't have to give any reason for up to 24 weeks.
Which is 6 months.
Which is 6 months, right, exactly. After 24 weeks, abortion is generally prohibited, but there are exceptions. One exception is if the life of the mother is in danger. Another is that if there's a danger of sort of really significant health implications to the mother. It can't be something that's, very minor, but a really significant health implication to the mother. That's an exception. And then the last one is if there are what are called fatal fetal abnormalities, where it seems unlikely that the child would survive anyway. So those are the main exceptions.
Thank you. I have served on judiciary more than once, and there's a lot of legal stuff. And, besides, all the social bills like abortion and suicide and all that, the legal stuff, it was like, that was hard for me to take.
Yeah, no, there are, there are many legal type issues. Like, for example, one of the bills that I remember from the first term I was here was what's called which dealt with what's known as the pre-termitted heir statute. And if you start to mention that to someone and they say, what? Pre-termitted heir? What's that? It's about basically a trust and estate issue that raises a significant issue, but it's not one that, unless you're a lawyer or you're really into the trust and estates, it's not something that a lot of people know about.
Who is your vice chair?
Scott Wallace. He's great. He's really excellent. And our ranking member from the Democratic Party is Marjorie Smith, and I get along very well with her too. She's really a very nice person.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, Marge was my chairman when I served on judiciary. Okay. And there wasn't a whole lot we agreed on politically, but we do get along very well. And I've been here 14 years, and she's been here a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
So,
no, I feel the same way. We disagree on a lot of things, but we get along very well because she's just a really nice person. She really is.
Good to hear. Thank you. Is there any bill that stays with you, whether because it's too controversial or it was silly or just memorable in some way?
Well, the bill that I remain committed to, even though it didn't pass last year and it didn't pass this. I mean, it passed the House, but it was always killed in the Senate. I have this bill dealing with landlord-tenant law, which you probably remember, that basically our current law in New Hampshire is that if you have a lease that the lease says it's for a year, it doesn't really mean it's for a year because the tenant is not required to leave at the end of the year, even if the landlord wants the tenant to leave. And so I've tried to change that. And I haven't been successful, but I'm not giving up. I intend to introduce it again next year, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to persuade the Senate, the House and the Senate next year. It passed the House. It's passed the House like 3 times, but it hasn't gotten through the Senate. Hopefully, I can change that next year.
Well, I wish you luck, and thank you so much for taking the time today to talk with us.
Thank you.
I had a lot of fun working on this project. I put it on one of the group chats on Facebook Messenger, and a former state rep, Adam Schroeder, sent me a message and said, because he was a freshman with us as well back in 2010, and he said that after hours, when the office is closed, the Secretary of State, Bill Gardner, would tell him little tidbits and stories about the State House. Like they used to have chickens in the little outdoor area in the basement. When you go in the cafe and you can see out the window, well, they used to have chickens there. And this is very interesting because there is a black walnut tree in the back of the State House on the side of the building. It was originally a sapling given to New Hampshire by George Washington and his estate at Martha's Vineyard, which I didn't know he had an estate at Martha's Vineyard. But a person can plant those walnuts at home and continue the lineage.
I've been trying.
You've been trying?
Year after year, I collect maybe a half dozen of the walnuts, and I let the seeds dry out. And this year I tried another one, and I haven't been successful with it. But so they're not super easy, and I know that other people have tried. So there's got to be a secret to it. So I'm going to try a different method this year. And once I get a sapling and become successful at it, I would like to donate it to Nashua, someplace in Nashua, because a tree is, when you plant a tree, it's for somebody else. It's a historic thing, and that's what George Washington did. But I've been trying. I believe in planting trees.
Yes, and he's the father of our country.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Senator Avard, our singing senator. Thank you so much for being part of this
Thanks
production.
for having me. I appreciate it, and it's always a pleasure. So, thank you.
And thank you for watching.